Hey guys, we are in the basement and today we're going to talk about a new game. That is right guys, you know what, we're not going to work on the Tempest monitor today. I know, and really, believe me, I know, Tempest is still down. I just haven't had a chance to get to that monitor since the last video, but I did get all the parts. I got my HV probe, so we're going to get back to the 6100 monitor here this upcoming weekend, but you can see here I got my HV probe. And I also picked up the Bob Roberts rebuild kit, so we'll get to that next. But today I'm kind of excited because I want to talk about a new game. Because you see, I went to look at this guy's games, and he's another collector. And he had a bunch of stuff I wasn't really interested in. I was just kind of going to look for a friend, actually. And he had a couple games I kind of liked, and I said to him, I said, hey, you know, I got an extra Donkey Kong, you know, at my friend's house. My friend Dan, you know, it's really doing me no good. You want to trade for one of these other games? He had like Space Duel and Omega Race and stuff. And you know, he texted me like a couple days later and said, hey, would you trade that Donkey Kong for a pinball machine? And I said, yeah. And you know, he's got a broken Black Knight. And I'm like, huh. I've always kind of casually liked Black Knight. I know I like the one at Fun Spot. So I agreed to do it, and here it is. We've got a Black Knight, and well, when I got it, it was broken. It didn't work, and I was kind of taking a big chance because I actually gave the guy a really nice cherry Donkey Kong that was working 100%. I rebuilt the monitor on it. It had the high score save with the Donkey Kong 2 kit. It was a super nice Donkey Kong. So I was taking a bit of a risk here, trading a really pristine, restored, nice game for a pinball machine that doesn't work, okay? But I agreed to do it because, hey, if you can trade a vid for a pin, you're usually ahead, you know, so I figured I can get it working. So anyway, here it is. I brought it home, and I did do some work on it without you guys. I'm sorry, but I was just like so excited to get working on this game. And so let me tell you what was going on. So when I got the game, and this was happening at the guy's house too, you know, we would turn it on, and it would just do this, okay? And game just non-responsive. You could do the flippers, you know, and that was it, okay? And this was as far as the game would go. And it was also blowing the fuse on the power supply that goes to the driver board, okay? And so the game just wasn't starting, okay? And that was it. So I got the game just like this, in this condition with a fuse missing, okay? So I brought it home here, and I started doing some research. This is a Williams System 7 game. It's old. This pin's from 1980, guys, by the way. This is a Black Knight. And if you guys aren't familiar with Black Knight, you know, this is made by Steve Ritchie. This was actually a pretty significant game, you know, as far as like, you know, the history of pinball goes, because this is the first pinball machine that has 2 levels, okay? You can see, it's the first, I think technically the first solid state pinball machine that has 2 levels, okay? So we have a lower level and we have an upper playfield here. The game has 4 flippers, so it has a lot going for it. And it's also the first pinball machine to have Magna Save right here, okay? So if you look over here, it's got 2 buttons. This button here controls a magnet that's right here and also here. Okay, there's also a button on this side. And when you press the button, say the ball's about to drain, if you press that button, the magnet will turn on and suck the ball to here and then drop it down this lane. So it's a way to save the ball. Anyway, this is a really cool pin, all right? But it's a System 7 pin, and I wasn't familiar at all with System 7 because the pins I have are actually newer. This is a System 11 from 1989, a Williams, okay? This one is a WPC from 1996 or 7 from Bally Williams, okay? And then this is Pinball 2000 from 99, which has a computer in it, okay? So this is a much older system. This game is almost 10 years older than my Whirlwind, okay? And I've also kind of wanted an older pin too, just so I'd have a nice balance of pins here. You know, I've got super new 99, 2000, last pin they made, one of them. I got a WPC from, you know, the mid to late 90s. I've got a Whirlwind from the late 80s, early 90s, and then this one would be from the early 80s, 1980s. So I'm going to have a nice balanced row of pins, which is another reason why I wanted this game. So anyway, fast forward here. So I get the game home, I plug it in, Actually, I didn't do anything right away. I actually did a lot of research, just reading up on System 7 games. And so I kind of knew what I was doing, or I kind of informed myself on what's what with this game and the weaknesses. So the first thing I did is I plugged it in, and then it kind of looked like this, okay? And again, game's not starting, right? It's just going into this, whatever this is. And, you know, it says 2500 for, it says 0400, so I didn't know what any of that stuff meant. So what I did first is I came in here, and I'm going to show you guys everything I did. And I removed the back glass. I got to do this carefully without destroying the back glass, because this is like gold. All right, so let's pull the back glass off, and the back glass just lifts up. These back glasses are very expensive to replace. It's about $300 to get a reproduction back glass. And this back glass is in okay shape. It's not that great. You can kind of see the holes and stuff, but I don't know. If I decide to keep the game, I'll consider a reproduction back glass, but not right now. Anyway, so I got the game home. I plugged it in, and then took the back glass off, and I just started looking around in here, okay, just to see what was up, what was what, okay. And here's the inside. We've got 4 boards here. This is the power supply, okay. This is the driver board, okay. This is the CPU board, and this is the sound board, okay. And this fuse right here was completely missing, and the guy told me that it kept blowing that fuse, okay. So I didn't want to put the fuse back in. Not until I educated myself on what was going on here. And so I kind of inspected it, and I tested all these transistors, and I was getting a continuity beep on this one. So I suspected that transistor was bad, you know, and this transistor actually controls the coin lockout on the coin door. So I figured this transistor was bad, maybe the coil in there was locked up, and that was blowing this fuse. So that was it. So I ordered the parts, and I was going to replace that transistor, I thought. And so then I started playing, I started reading about, to see if you can get the game in test, right? And so what I did is, I started playing with the test switch over here, okay? And I just started, you know, just pushing buttons. I really didn't know what I was doing, because the feedback you get on the display is pretty weak, so I didn't know what was what. So I just started pressing these buttons, and I saw that number was going up. And, you know, System 11 kind of does this with the different tests. So I'm just holding in this button, and then that happens, you know, and then it kind of looks like it goes back to where it was. And then I just kept pressing the button again, and the numbers go up, and then all of a sudden, this happened. I'm like, oh my God, the game is in a tract. So I'm like, holy shit, I think I just fixed the game. Because the game right now is in a track mode, right? And so I tried coining up the game and starting a game, but nothing happened. I'm like, oh fuck. And I'm like, okay, well maybe I'll, you know what, I'm gonna put a fuse in. I'm just gonna see what happens if I put a fuse in. And I put the fuse in, I turned it on, and then it did that thing again, where it went into that screen, and I got out of it by pressing these buttons, and then I put a fuse in, and then I'm like, all right, let's see what happens when I coin it up. So I coined it up, and then I hear that. I'm like, what? And then I'm like, all right, well, let's see what happens. The game works. I was like, what? The game works like perfect. I'm like, okay. So then I started playing. And, yeah, the game, that was it. I don't know how, but I fixed the game, right? So I'm, like, thoroughly confused. I'm like, why was the fuse blown? You know, I was very cautious. But the game was working, and I'm like, holy crap, I just fixed it. And, so I turned the game off, right? Then I turn it back on. And then, look, it does it again. It's back in this screen. So I'm like, what the hell is going on here? What is this screen? Well, it turns out, this right here is the test mode, okay? It's in test, right? And the reason it's in test, I found out, I went back in the back box, okay? And let me show you guys. So I went back in here. I'm like, why is it going into test, right? And I look here, and right here is where a battery holder used to be, okay? And this battery holder holds 3 AAA batteries. And the batteries can leak and take all of these boards out. So somebody actually did the right thing and they removed the battery holder, okay? And then they remote mounted it over here in a battery holder, okay? And this had batteries in it when I got it, okay? So I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, well, it's got batteries in it, and I don't know why, I just started poking around here, but then I turn it over, and I'm like, wait a second, there's only one lead going to this, and the negative lead was off, right? I'm like, holy crap. So then I realized that the problem here is that the batteries were not making connection to the board, and because of that, the game was going directly into test, right? And that's really all that was wrong with this game, was that the game was in test, and I think the previous owner didn't know how to get out of it. And it was in test because of this. And if you look here, there's corrosion. I'm starting to notice the batteries leaked in here, okay? Which is okay because it's remote mounted, right? But it looks like they went into the wire right here. See the acid from the battery went in this wire. It looks like it came up and it went to the board. Look at that. So I might have a little bit of an issue right here that I need to address. I think I can see a little bit of green. I'm starting to think the acid might have went up there and corroded that, and I might have to address that. So, but what I do want to do in this video is I want to replace this battery holder. And you can see this is it takes 3 batteries. So why don't we go over, I went to Radio Shack today and I got a new battery holder, and let's just replace that and see what happens. Let me turn the game off. I don't want to short anything out. So let's go over to my desk and let's get set up with a new battery holder and see if we can fix this going into testing. But pretty awesome, right? And I also did go through the whole game, and there was a bunch of switches that were bad, adjusted poorly, and I fixed those, or leaf switches. I didn't film it, guys, I'm sorry. And I also found a ground wire that was going to 2 switches for these drop targets that was just completely off. I resoldered that, and so I basically in the last day or two here, I got everything working 1000%. Every single drop target works and registers. Every switch is working. I need to adjust the flippers a little bit because this one is a little misaligned. You can see that this one is sitting up a little higher than this one. The flippers should basically be kind of level, parallel with this, and this one kind of comes up. You can see this one is pretty much on the money and it's level. So anyway, why don't we go to my desk and let's set up a new battery holder. And I think though I'm gonna end up having to pull this board out and maybe resolder that wire. I'm worried there's some acid damage on that. I didn't want to consider that, but I think it's a possibility. So okay, anyway, let's go set up, and we'll cross that bridge later, but let's go get a new battery holder set up. All right, guys, so I went to Radio Shack today, and now remember, the game over there has a 3-position, 3 AA batteries, okay? It takes 3 AA batteries. They didn't have a 3 AA battery holder, but they had a 4 AA battery holder, and we can make this work, and I'll show you guys how. What we need to do, and by the way, I stole this idea from Clay, from this old pinball and pinrepair.com. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a blocking diode here, and this is a 1N 4005, okay? And we're basically going to put it in the 4th battery slot, okay? And we want the band of the diode basically going on the positive, which is right here, okay? And basically this is going to fill the spot of where the of where the 4th battery should be, okay? And just like so, you see that? And let me just consult something real quick. I'm looking at a picture online that Clay's got on his site, and yeah, so the band goes towards the positive. And if you guys Google, I've actually documented this on my site too at johnsarcade.com. But if you just Google, you know, remote battery mount pinball, you'll find the picture that you need that shows how to do this. But so we're just going to basically solder this in here, and what's going to happen here is we're going to put 3 batteries here, and then this diode is basically going to just bridge the gap. You know, instead of having a 4th battery adding more juice to this, we're going to have the diode instead. And the reason we're going to use a diode, you could just use a piece of straight wire too, and not have a diode. But the diode just kind of acts as a little safety measure, because a diode is basically like a one-way road, okay? And it's going to basically what we're saying is take the voltage from this battery, and this battery, and send it down this positive wire, okay? And the band is kind of the direction of the flow, or the direction of the road. And by using a diode, nothing can come back. Nothing can come back to the batteries, okay? Now, some games out there charge the batteries, okay? I think Gottlieb's do. They have the little data cell like Hubert. A lot of arcade games charge the batteries. Zookeeper and Kicks. They actually have rechargeable batteries in these slots. And the game does send juice back to the batteries to be charged. Now, this Williams pinball doesn't do that, but just as an extra preventative measure, you know, if any voltage were to come back, the diode will stop it, okay? So does that make sense? So we're going to have 3 batteries in here. The diode is acting like a one-way sign that's basically sending the voltage across here of the 3 batteries down the positive wire, okay? And then we've got our black. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to solder this on here, and I really should use flux with this. Where is my flux? I cleaned up and now I can't find anything. Alright, let me find my flux. One sec. Alright guys, we're back. I couldn't find my flux. I don't know what the heck I did with it. I just tore my whole basement apart trying to find it. It might be in the garage. I don't know. So anyway, we're going to go ahead here and just solder this diode onto the battery holder, okay? And make sure you guys can see it. So we're just going to go ahead and try to do it without flux and just use a lot of heat. Alright, so basically we want to solder the band to the positive wire, the positive side, which is right there, okay? So what I'm going to do is just... this isn't very hard to do actually, because there's like little holes here that we could use this to solder. And okay, so I'm trying to do this with one hand. I'm just gonna take some solder here, just kind of get one end started, just kind of tack it in. And you might melt the plastic when you do this, because I've done this before. I did this on my Whirlwind. And, oh shit, metal. Trying to get it on that wire. Yeah, be careful about melting the plastic. It's not going. I'm trying to heat up the metal and make it suck the solder from the lead of the diode to the metal. If you guys can see. Come on, go. Okay, I think we got... It's ugly, right? But it made the connection. No, it didn't. So I think what we can do is just clip the wire and solder the wire directly to it. I'm going to go ahead and do this side. And then on the other side, I'm going to... So just when you do this, be careful not to melt this plastic, which is almost impossible to do. I think I might have got this side okay. Okay. So I think that side's cool. So now we gotta try to get this other side. And I think I'm just gonna clip this wire right here. You guys can see that. And then just solder this wire directly to the end of that diode. This is such a cheap ass battery holder, so Just gonna wrap the wire. Arg. Kind of butchering this, guys. It's tacked on there, but I want a little more solder. I don't want it to come off.
Get set.
Okay. Alright, so we've got our diode here soldered to our positive wire. The band side is soldered to the positive wire. I cut off... I have my needle nose pliers over here. I just cut off the wire going to this lead because you only need this for the battery, and we're kind of bypassing that. So anyway, so the band side goes to the positive, the non-band side is going to the negative. Okay, so it's now part of this whole circuit. Okay, so we want to add some kind of quick disconnect to this so we can easily disconnect this from the game if we need to. And I'm just going to use these little spade connectors. You can use like a Molex connector too, like a 2-pin Molex connector. I just don't have one right now. So I'm just going to use these little cheapo spade connectors. And basically we have kind of one that's a female and one that's a male, and they're going to go into each other. And these are kind of not the right sizes, but it's all I got right now. And so we'll make this work. And I'm just going to come in here. I'm just going to crimp it down with this.
On your mark. Get set.
Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one female and one male on this side, and I'll do the same on the other side on the game. That way you can't connect them the wrong way. But these are just cheapo connectors. Okay. That's good. Okay, and we'll put our batteries in. Okay, so we're all set. Let's go over the game and we'll do some testing too to make sure we got this all right before we plug it in. Okay, so before I plug this in, I do want to just kind of double check my work. I'm just going to take my multimeter here and I'm just basically going to test here to see if we're getting the proper voltage. And that way we know the diode's installed right and all that. So let me see if I can figure out a way to show you guys this. Okay. See that there. So I'm just going to take my battery, put the red, I got all the batteries in, put the red here on the red and the black on the black, and we should get what, 4.5 volts for 3 batteries. And there we go, we got 4.597 volts. Okay, so we know that is all set up right, and we know the blocking diode is going the right way, the juice is going the right direction, because if it was installed backwards we would get no reading because the voltage would be blocked from going to the red wire, to the positive wire. Okay, so now let's go over here and we got to basically just put our connectors. Now, you know, normally the game would not have these wires coming off the CPU board. The only reason this game is like this right now is because someone did mount the battery remotely. However, the batteries leaked, and thank God it was mounted remotely, because we could have a bigger mess than we do on our hands here. So, all right, so I'm gonna go ahead and strip. I'm just stripping the wires that are going to the board, and I'm just double checking. Okay, the red wire here is indeed positive. You can see on the board, it's labeled positive. Okay, so if you wanted to install a remote battery, you'd basically desolder the original battery holder, put a wire on the positive, which we have right there, and then a wire on the negative, which is over there, and then run these to your battery holder, which is what we're going to do right now. So, okay, so you remember we have a male and a female here. So right now I have the female on the positive wire, which means that we need to put a male on the positive wire on the game. So let me just grab one of these. That attract is really annoying. Okay. Alright. But yeah, this is pretty simple, really, right? And let's throw... Our negative is going to go to the female right here. This tool is pretty violent for doing these, but it really does a good job. This little... Okay. Alright, so we're all crimped. So now we're going to plug our battery in, and remember, positive goes to positive, negative goes to negative. Just like that. And so that's it. Our remote battery's installed right there. And we're just going to go ahead and just put it on the bottom of the cabinet. Okay. Okay, so now I just want to double check my work at the board. I want to make sure we've got the voltage at the board. And I'm going to take my multimeter here. Let me see if I can put it somewhere where you guys can see it. Okay. And we're going to go positive to positive, negative to negative, but on the board. There we go. We got our, it says 4 point. Yep, okay, so we've got our voltage at the board. It was like 4.46 volts. So we've got the voltage. The battery's going to the board, which now means that the game will save the settings, okay? Because that was the problem. It wasn't saving the settings because the batteries were disconnected, essentially. And because the batteries were disconnected, the game was starting in the test mode every single time we turned it on. So now the batteries are reconnected. I am a little worried here about this corrosion here. So I'm going to be optimistic right now. I'm going to keep my eyes on that, but really the right thing right now is to do really would be to pull the CPU board out and neutralize the acid that might be on there. I don't know if there is, but there could be, because it looks a little corroded from the acid maybe going up the wire, and you can neutralize it with a vinegar. And then rinse it off with water and alcohol, but we're not going to do that right now. So let's just hope that it works. I tested the voltage at the board, and we're getting the voltage we needed. So let's turn the game on. It should go into test though, because there's no settings right now for it to save. It's this, the first time you turn it on with new batteries, it should still go into test. So let's see what happens. Let's turn it on. Okay, yeah, it's in test. That's okay. I expect it to do that. So let's go ahead and get it out of test. So I'm just holding in this test switch on the coin door. So that's the first batch of tests. There's the second batch of tests. Okay. And now it's in a tract. Okay. So I guess we could start a game. Let me coin up.
You cannot fight and win.
Okay, so let's start the game. It's gonna drain. It's gonna lose all the balls really fast. Pretty cool game though, isn't it? We'll do a gameplay video later. I mean, this game's badass. It's got speech and all kinds of lunacy. So... and just gonna kill the game.
One enemy cannot fight the
Black Knight. Alright, so there you go.
Will you challenge the Black Knight again?
Pretty awesome game, right? Alright, so let's turn it off. And now, if we turn it on, because we've got the batteries in there, and by the way, we basically just did the default settings by going to the test like that, and then hopefully it wrote those default settings to a RAM chip, and the batteries now are keeping that data alive. So let's wait, 5-10 seconds here, and so the batteries are keeping the data alive, and let's turn it on, and now we should be not in test, and we are. Shit. I think I need to look at the back of that board there. I don't think that... I'm thinking I need to resolder that right there, because that does not look like a good connection at all. Let me just double check. Just gonna double check my voltages here. So let's go up in here. Positive. Negative. I'm not getting 4.5 volts now. Okay guys, here's what I figured out. I actually had a bad crimp on one of these crappy connectors. I actually just went over there and just threw a drop of solder on here and crimped it with pliers instead of that that tool I used before, and these are just cheap ass connectors. You really should use a Molex connector. I just didn't have one. So let's try this again. I'm gonna reconnect it. All right, now let's check the voltages at the board again. I got it on DC. And I'm just trying to see if we've got the 4.5 volts at the board. Positive and negative. Yeah, I do. And I should be able to go on these other, maybe these other negatives. No. Well, I do have it on this pad right here. You just touch the pad and not the wire. Yeah, I'm getting it. Okay. So let's see if that works. Hopefully it does. Again, we've got a suspect trace there with potential battery damage that crept up all the way to the board, which is not good. All right, so let's turn the game on. Okay, it's in test. We expect that. Get it out of test. All right, so it's in a track mode. I'm just going to turn the game off and turn it on. Let's wait 5 seconds. All right, there you go. Okay, that was a success. So we fixed it. So the game's not going into test anymore. It's working. The battery's got a good connection. It's keeping its memory. It knows what the settings are. The settings are, we told it when we went through the test here, we told it this to do the default settings, okay? Because when the game has no batteries in it and you just turn it on, it goes right into test. And then you go through this, you cycle through this, and you're basically telling it to use the default settings. writes that to the memory, and then when you turn the game off, the batteries keep that information alive. It's telling the game, use the default settings, the battery basically just keeps the brain alive. So let's turn it off again. So that was really all that was wrong with this game, I think, was that the batteries were dead, and the previous owner, I don't think, knew how to get out of a tract, which is kind of, which is bad, really. I mean, you kind of got to learn these games. I'm going to turn it back on, and it goes right into a tract. Okay, so we fixed it, guys. So I tell you what, why don't I put the back glass back on? Why don't we play a quick game? And I'll show you guys how the game plays. You kind of hear the sounds and all that. It is a pretty neat game. So, all right, let me go put the back glass back on. Let me show you guys how Black Knight plays. And I think I'll do another video with a little more in-depth gameplay, but I'll just give you guys kind of a flavor for of Black Knight. It looks cool, all right? Play feels pretty badass. The artwork is sick. For an old game from 1980, it's not in bad shape either. I did wax it. I cleaned all the junk off of it. I waxed it with some, I used this here. This is Mother's Brazilian Carnauba wax, and I used that to clean the playfield. And you should use Novus 2 to get all the dirt off, and then you wax it with that wax over there. And I fixed all the light bulbs. I replaced all the ones that were burnt out. I'm thinking about doing LEDs in it, but we'll see. And I got all the switches working, so the game's working 1000%. So anyway, let's put the back glass on. I'll set up a tripod, and I'll show you guys how Black Knight plays. But this is not going to be the in-depth gameplay video. I'll do one of those later. Alright guys, let's just play a quick game. This is not going to be my in-depth gameplay video. I just want to give you guys a little flavor for the game, how it sounds, and all that stuff. And I want you guys to keep one thing in mind here. This game was developed by Steve Ritchie. Steve Ritchie did the design, and the programming was, the programmer was Larry Demar, okay? And also, this is a Williams game. Now, this is important, okay, because Larry Demar worked on other Williams games that kind of have similar sound effects. Now, these games were not pinball machines, though, because Larry Demar and Eugene Jarvis basically are the team responsible for Defender, Robotron, Stargate, and you guys are going to hear a lot of the same exact sounds in this pinball machine that you can hear in Robotron and Defender. And it's obviously, I believe, the same sound hardware or sound chip, okay? And really, it's the same damn sound. So just keep that in mind. I mean, you will totally hear Defender in here and Robotron. So the game's got speech, which is cool, right? So let's go ahead, and the ball comes up on the top playfield there. And basically, the object of the game here is to hit all those drop targets and lock the balls on the top for multi-ball. And so we want to get back to the top level. And right now it's freaking out because it wants me to, that's a timer, okay? And once you hit a drop target down, you have a limited amount of time to get all three of them. See, that thing's blinking. I got two of the three. There, I got all three, and it makes that sound. Sounds a lot like Robotron, doesn't it? But it's a really fast game. Ah, I suck. Let's get up that ramp. Oh, get up there. No! Yeah. Come on, let's at least lock a ball. Alright, we got some action on the upper playfield here. Let me just show you guys the ball lock. Ah, fuck you. I mean, sorry. So yeah, it's a cool game. It's hard, actually. But look at it without the lights off. Oh, isn't that badass? Very cool game. You can see my back glass is not that great. It's got some holes in it, but I'll keep my eyes out for a new one. It's presentable, but it's a really neat game for 1980, and really special game, really. As far as the history of pinball goes, this was one that really changed things, you know? With the upper playfield, 4 flippers, speech, the Magna save with the magnet. And I didn't show you guys that, but I'll show you that some other time, but maybe in the next video. So anyway, that's it. I've got some more little tiny fine tuning to do with the flippers, but I think I'm pretty much ready to put this game in the row, which of course means I need to get rid of a game. For now, I'm gonna move Time Pilot out of that corner, and we're gonna put Star Wars there. And I'm gonna put Star Wars over here in this corner, and then I'm gonna basically slide Revenge from Mars over, and then put Black Knight in between Revenge from Mars and NBA Fast Break. That's kind of my plan. So I'm gonna just move Time Pilot out of the way, keep it in the basement for now, and then we'll figure it out. So anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that. It was kind of a weird video, but hey, the game's working 100%. I'm really happy, actually. So pretty much ready to put it in the row and enjoy it, but I'm actually pretty excited to have a 4th pinball down here. I used to have 4 pinball machines before, and I sold. At one time I had what, Theater of Magic. I had No Good Gophers, The Simpsons, and Revenge from Mars. I think were the 4 I had at one point, and so it'll be nice to have 4 pins again. And this is such an uber classic. And it's not in bad shape for all original, really. I'm going to keep my eyes out for some new plastics. Because you can see here, this slingshot is cracked, you know. Just minor stuff. But the playfield is in pretty good shape for its age. Couple little wear spots. But really, this area is usually all blown out on these games. And it's not on this one. So that's good. That's real good. Really, the worst thing is this back glass, and in really, I've seen far worse back glasses on Black Knight. I might be able to live with this. We'll see how it goes. So, anyway, there you have it, guys. Hey, listen, I got a podcast called Arcade Outsiders. We do it every Tuesday at 11 p.m. Eastern on allgames.com. And I also have another podcast called Video Game Outsiders, and we do that one at 9 p.m. Eastern on allgames.com. So, go to allgames.com Tuesday nights, because my 2 podcasts pretty much own the airwaves there those nights. And, arcadeoutsiders.com, it's an arcade podcast. You know, if you guys like this stuff I'm doing down here, listen to that podcast, because I do that with my 2 buddies, Joe and Fett. And we do that every Tuesday night. You can also subscribe on iTunes. You don't have to listen live. Then also check out Video Game Outsiders at videogameoutsiders.com. But anyway, guys, I think that's going to do it for this vid. And in the next video, I think we're going to get back to the 6100. But I was just kind of so excited to get to work on this Black Knight. And I actually felt kind of guilty that I did do some work on it and not film it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that kind of stuff. I don't know. So anyway, that's it, guys. We'll see you later. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys.